Welcome to the inner sanctum of the heart. If you are here, it is because you have felt that strange, hollow distance that can grow between two souls, even when they are sitting in the same room. You've felt the frustration of giving everything you have, only to feel like it's never enough, or worse, that it's being translated into a language your partner simply does not speak. Today, we are going to dismantle the walls of misunderstanding and rebuild the architecture of your connections. We are diving deep into the profound alchemy of the love languages, but from a perspective you haven't heard before. We are looking at the soul beneath the skin. Before we begin this journey into the depths of devotion, take a moment to anchor yourself here. Hit that like button, subscribe to The Elevated Within, and join our community of seekers. Let's ensure this light reaches everyone who is tired of feeling misunderstood. The concept of the love tank is more than a metaphor. It is a spiritual reality. Every human being carries an invisible reservoir that dictates their emotional stability, their confidence, and their capacity to give back to the world. When that tank is empty, we become reactive, defensive, and brittle. When it is full, we become expansive. But the tragedy of the modern condition is that most of us are trying to fill our partner's tank with a substance they cannot process. Imagine trying to fuel a high-performance electric engine with traditional gasoline. No matter how much you pour in, the engine remains cold. The gasoline is your effort, but the electricity is their specific language. We begin with the first dialect of the soul: words of affirmation. For many, the spoken word is the primary bridge between two internal universes. In the beginning, the universe was spoken into existence. Let there be light. Words are not merely vibrations in the air. They are the architects of reality. For the person whose primary language is affirmation, your words are the mirrors in which they see their own value reflected. To love someone through words is to become a curator of their strengths. It is the conscious decision to ignore the trivial irritations of the day and focus your lens on the gold within them. Think about the last time you truly saw your partner, not as a roommate, a co-parent, or a financial partner, but as a miracle. When was the last time you told them, "I am so proud of the way you handled that situation," or "The way you think about the world inspires me"? For an affirmation-centric soul, a compliment is more than a nice gesture. It is a lifeline. It silences the internal critic that tells them they aren't enough. Conversely, for these individuals, a sharp word, a sarcastic jab, or a dismissive tone isn't just a moment of friction. It is a structural blow to their sense of safety. Insults are not easily forgotten. They are etched into the stone of their memory. If you are with someone who thrives on words, you must understand that your silence is often interpreted as disapproval. Your quiet presence might feel like an icy void to them. They need to hear the bridge being built, but let us go deeper than simple compliments. True affirmation is about acknowledgement. It is about saying, "I see the effort you are making." It is noticing the small things that the rest of the world ignores. Maybe it's the way they make the coffee in the morning, or the way they remain patient with a difficult family member. When you verbalize these observations, you are telling them that they are known. To be known and still be praised is the highest form of intimacy. Many people struggle with this because they grew up in low affirmation environments. Perhaps your parents showed love through hard work or discipline, but never said, "I love you," or "I'm proud of you." If that is your story, speaking this language will feel like learning a foreign tongue with a complex alphabet. It will feel clunky and forced at first. You might feel cheesy or vulnerable, but remember, this isn't about your comfort. It's about their nourishment. You are the gardener of their heart. If the soil is dry, you don't complain that the plant isn't blooming. You fetch the water. We must also distinguish between demands and requests. Love makes requests. Ego makes demands. When you ask for something with a spirit of affirmation, you are reinforcing the other person's agency and worth. When you demand it, you are treating them as an object to be manipulated. The tone of your voice carries the frequency of your intent. A request says, "I value you, and I believe you have the capacity to help me." A demand says, "You owe me." One builds a palace, the other builds a prison. Think of the power of a written note. In our digital age, where a text message is deleted in a second, a handwritten word of affirmation becomes a sacred relic. It is physical proof of a thought. For a person who speaks this language, finding a note in their bag or on the mirror that says, "You are my favorite part of every day," is worth more than a diamond. It is a portable sanctuary they can carry with them when the world gets loud and unkind. The objective here is to become fluent in the language of the spirit. This requires a shift in consciousness. You have to stop looking at what is missing and start narrating what is present. Every time you have a positive thought about your partner, say it. Don't let it die in your mind. If you think they look beautiful in that light, tell them. If you appreciate the way they handled a phone call, tell them. If you are grateful for their presence in your life, tell them, and tell them why. The why is the anchor. "I love you because" is a far more powerful sentence than a simple "love ya." As we progress through these 6 parts, I want you to hold a mirror up to your own life. Do you feel a spark of recognition when I talk about words? Or do you feel a sense of guilt because you realize you've been silent for too long? There is no room for shame here, only for evolution. We are all students in the school of love. The beauty of words of affirmation is that it costs nothing but attention, yet its ROI is infinite. It softens the hard edges of life. It creates an atmosphere where the other person feels safe enough to drop their armor. When someone knows they are valued, they naturally want to become the best version of the person you see in them. You are literally speaking their potential into existence. However, we must be wary of false affirmation. Flattery is a manipulation. Affirmation is a truth-telling. Flattery has an agenda. Affirmation has a purpose. Your partner knows the difference. They can feel the frequency of a lie. To be an effective communicator of love, your words must be grounded in genuine observation. You aren't making things up to be nice. You are training your eyes to see the divinity that is already there. Consider the echo effect. When you begin to fill your partner's tank with the right fuel, the vibration of the relationship changes. The tension that used to exist in the kitchen or the bedroom starts to dissolve. Why? Because the underlying hunger, the hunger for validation, is finally being satisfied. A person who is fed is a person who can finally rest, and in that rest, they can finally hear you too. As we move forward, realize that this is just the first gate. For some of you, everything I just said sounds nice, but it doesn't hit the soul. You might be thinking, talk is cheap, show me. If that's you, then your language lies in the realms we are about to enter, the realms of time, action, and touch. But even if words of affirmation isn't your primary language, it is a vital secondary skill. No one ever complained about being appreciated too much. We are building a legacy of light here. We are deciding that the generations that come after us will know how to speak to the people they love. They will know that a tongue can be a weapon or a wand. We choose the wand. We choose to heal. In the next part, we will move from the spoken word into the sanctity of presence. We will talk about the rare commodity of quality time, not just being in the same house, but truly occupying the same moment. We will learn how to turn off the noise of the world so we can hear the heartbeat of the person next to us. The journey is just beginning. Stay with me, stay elevated, and let the transformation of your heart continue. This is how we change the world, one understood soul at a time. We move now from the power of the spoken word into a realm that is perhaps the most scarce and precious commodity in our modern, frantic existence, the sanctity of quality time. If words of affirmation are the architects of the relationship, quality time is the soil in which the foundation is laid. For many of you listening, Words can sometimes feel like a beautiful melody, but without the physical presence of the person playing the instrument, the music feels distant. You belong to the tribe that believes love is not just something you say, it is something you inhabit. To speak the language of quality time is to give someone the one thing you can never get back, a portion of your life. When you give someone your time, you are giving them a piece of your mortality. It is the ultimate sacrifice of the ego. In a world designed to fracture our attention into a million digital shards, giving someone your undivided focus is a radical act of devotion. It is a quiet rebellion against a society that tells us we must always be productive or connected to the hive mind of the internet. But we must be very clear about what quality time is not. It is not sitting on the couch together while both of you are scrolling through your phones. That is proximity, not presence. It is not watching a movie in silence where your eyes are fixed on a screen rather than each other. That is shared entertainment, not shared intimacy. Quality time, in its most elevated form, is focused attention. It is the act of closing the tabs in your mind, putting the device in another room, and turning the full radiance of your consciousness toward the person in front of you. Imagine your attention as a spotlight. Most of the time, that light is flickering, dim, or pointing at several things at once. Your work emails, your anxieties about the future, the chores that need to be done. When you speak the language of quality time, you take that spotlight and you narrow the beam until it illuminates only your partner. In that light, they feel truly seen. They feel that, for this moment, they are the most important thing in your universe. For a person whose primary language is time, this being seen is the only thing that makes them feel secure. There is a profound psychological concept called attunement. It is the ability to be aware of and responsive to another person's emotional state. You cannot achieve attunement at a distance. You cannot achieve it while multitasking. It requires you to sit in the stillness with someone, to look into their eyes, and to listen not just to their words, but to the spaces between their words. It is noticing the slight downturn of their mouth, the weary sigh they didn't know they let out, or the spark of excitement when they talk about a dream they've been harboring. For the person who craves quality time, quality conversation is the subdialect they often need most. This is not the logistics of life. It's not talking about who is picking up the groceries or when the bills are due. This is soul talk. It is asking open-ended questions that invite the other person to reveal themselves. Questions like, what was the best part of your day today? Or, what is something you've been thinking about lately that you haven't told anyone? When you ask these questions and then truly listen, without interrupting, without offering unsolicited advice, and without checking your watch, you are pouring pure, high-octane fuel into their love tank. Many people struggle with this because we have been conditioned to be fixers. When our partner speaks, we listen for a problem to solve so we can feel useful and move on to the next task. But for the quality time speaker, the problem is often just the feeling of being alone. The solution isn't a piece of advice, it's your companionship. They don't want you to fix the storm. They want you to sit with them in the rain until it passes. This requires a high degree of emotional maturity. It requires you to be comfortable with silence and comfortable with emotions that don't have an immediate resolution. Another vital aspect of this language is shared activities. For some, the bond is forged not just through talking, but through doing. This is the side-by-side love. It's taking a walk together, cooking a meal from scratch, starting a hobby together, or traveling to a place neither of you has been. The activity itself is almost secondary. It serves as the container for the connection. The magic happens in the shared experience. It creates a history of us. When you look back on your life, you don't remember the hours spent staring at your laptop. You remember the time you got lost on a back road in the rain and laughed until you couldn't breathe. Those moments are the bricks and mortar of a lasting legacy. If you are the partner of a quality time speaker, you must understand that canceled plans or distracted presence are seen as deep personal rejections. To them, if you aren't willing to give them your time, you aren't willing to give them your heart. If you tell them you'll go for a walk at 6:00 p.m. and then you stay on a work call until 7:00 p.m., you haven't just missed a walk. You've sent a message that says, everything else is more important than you. To speak this language fluently, you must be a person of your word. You must protect the time you set aside for them as if it were a sacred appointment with a king or a queen. Because in the kingdom of your relationship, that's exactly what it is. We live in an age of continuous partial attention. We are always halfway somewhere else. This is the poison of modern intimacy. We think we are being efficient, but we are actually becoming shallow. To be elevated is to choose depth over breadth. It is better to spend 20 minutes of absolute, soul-to-soul presence with your partner than 4 hours of distracted proximity. Those 20 minutes can sustain a person for days. It charges their battery. It reminds them that they are a priority. Let us look at the spiritual dimension of this. In many ancient traditions, the divine is found in the present moment. When you give someone your full presence, you are essentially sharing a spiritual experience with them. You are saying, the most holy place I can be right now is right here with you. This elevates the relationship from a social contract to a sacred union. It removes the noise of the ego and allows two spirits to actually touch. If you find it difficult to give quality time, ask yourself why. Are you afraid of what you might feel if you stop moving? Are you using busyness as a shield to avoid true intimacy? Often, we stay busy because deep connection requires vulnerability. It requires us to be seen, warts and all. But growth only happens in the light of being seen. You cannot grow a garden in a dark basement, and you cannot grow a relationship in the cracks of a busy schedule. To implement this starting today, I want you to establish what I call the sanctuary hour, or even the sanctuary 15. Every day, find a window of time where all devices are put away. No TV, no phones, no tablets. Just you and your person. If you have children, do this after they go to bed. If you have a demanding job, do it before you start your day or immediately when you get home. Use this time to check in, not on the to-do list, but on the how are you list. Practice the eye contact exercise. It sounds simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Try to look into your partner's eyes for just 3 minutes without speaking. You will find that it is initially uncomfortable. Why? Because it is incredibly intimate. It breaks down the barriers we carry. It forces us to acknowledge the soul living behind those eyes. For a quality time person, this is like water in a desert. Remember, the goal is to make them feel like they are the center of your world during that time. If you are walking, walk at their pace. If you are eating, don't rush. Let the world outside wait. The world is always going to have demands. The emails will always be there. The social media feed will always be refreshing. But your partner is a living, breathing, aging human being whose time on this earth is limited. Treat every moment of quality time as a precious investment in the bank of us. As we move through this exploration, notice if you feel a longing for this. Does the idea of someone putting their phone away just to hear you speak make your heart ache? If so, this is your language. And it is a beautiful, noble language to speak. It shows that you value essence over appearance. You value the journey over the destination. In the next part of our journey, we will shift from the intangible gift of time to the tangible symbols of love. We will explore how a physical object can carry the weight of 1,000 thoughts and how the simplest act of service can be a profound prayer of devotion. We are moving into the physical realm of the love languages, where spirit meets matter. But for now, I want you to sit with this. Presence is the greatest gift you will ever give. It is the only gift that truly matters in the end. When we are at the end of our lives, we won't wish we had worked more or scrolled more. We will wish we had spent more time looking into the eyes of the people we loved. Why wait until the end to start living that truth? Start now. Be here, be present, be elevated. We have traveled through the vibration of the spoken word and the sanctuary of shared time. Now, we descend from the ethereal into the tangible. We enter the realm where love takes a physical form, where the abstract becomes an object you can hold in your hand, and where a silent intention becomes a labor of the body. We are exploring the dual languages of receiving gifts and acts of service. To the uninitiated, these may seem mundane or even materialistic, but from an elevated perspective, they are profound spiritual transmissions. They are the evidence of a soul that has been thinking of another even when they were apart. Let us first dismantle the misconception surrounding the language of receiving gifts. In a consumerist culture, we often mistake this for greed or a desire for luxury. But for the person who speaks this language, the monetary value of the gift is almost entirely irrelevant. The gift is a visual symbol of love. It is the physical manifestation of the thought, "He was thinking of me," or "She remembered me." It is a bridge across the gap of absence. To the person who speaks this language, a wildflower picked from the side of the road because it reminded you of the color of their eyes is infinitely more valuable than a generic piece of jewelry bought out of obligation. Think of the gift as a capsule of a moment. When you give a gift, you are saying, "While I was out in the world, separate from you, you were still present in my consciousness." For an individual who speaks this language, the absence of gifts is often interpreted as an absence of thought. If you come home from a trip empty-handed, they don't see it as a lack of stuff. They see it as proof that they were forgotten while you were away. To love someone whose language is gifts is to become a student of their essence. You must look for the things that spark joy in them, the things they mention in passing, the small comforts they deny themselves. The gift is a sacred token. In many ancient cultures, the exchange of gifts was a way to seal a covenant, to show honor, and to acknowledge the divine spark in the other person. When you give a person who speaks this language something thoughtful, you are honoring their existence. You are saying, "I see you, I know what you like, and I went out of my way to bring a piece of the world back to you." This is why the price tag matters so little. It is the thought tag that carries the weight. A shell from a beach, a book that addresses a topic they love, or even a specific snack they enjoy, these are all echoes of your devotion. Now let us pivot to the second half of this physical manifestation, acts of service. If receiving gifts is about the thought, then acts of service is about the will. For many, love is a verb that requires sweat, effort, and the rolling up of sleeves. This is the language of the protector and the nurturer. It is the belief that talk is cheap, but doing the dishes is divine. For the person who speaks this language, hearing "I love you" while they are drowning in chores, errands, and responsibilities can actually feel like a mockery. To them, the most romantic sentence in the English language isn't "You're beautiful," it's "I took the car to get the oil changed so you wouldn't have to worry about it." To perform an act of service is to remove a burden from the shoulders of the person you love. It is the conscious decision to give your energy so that they might have more rest, more peace, or more joy. This is not about being a servant. It is about being a partner in the truest sense of the word. It is a spiritual practice of humility. In our ego-driven world, we are often told to look out for number one, to protect our own time, and to avoid doing chores for others. But in the elevated marriage or partnership, we recognize that by serving the other, we are nourishing the union itself. If your partner's language is acts of service, you must understand that your laziness, or your forgetting to do what you said you would do, is a profound emotional wound. To them, it feels like you don't care about their stress levels. It feels like you are happy to let them carry the weight of the world alone. Conversely, when you proactively look for ways to help, without being asked, you are speaking directly to their nervous system. You are telling them, "I am your teammate. I am here to make your life easier. You are safe with me. The key to mastering acts of service is anticipation. If you wait to be asked, it is a favor. If you do it before you are asked, it is a love language. It requires you to be observant. Does the trash need to be taken out? Is the laundry piling up? Is there a technical problem in the house that has been frustrating them? When you step in and handle these things, you are performing a ritual of care. You are sanctifying the mundane. You are turning the to-do list into a love list. We must also look at the internal resistance some feel toward these languages. Some people feel that receiving gifts is shallow, or that acts of service is subservient. This is the ego talking. The ego wants to define love on its own terms, but true love is about translating yourself into the dialect of the beloved. If you think giving a gift is shallow, but your partner feels a surge of soul-deep security when they receive one, then your definition of shallow is standing in the way of their happiness. If you think doing chores is beneath you, then your pride is the ceiling that is keeping your relationship from reaching its full height. Let us consider the intersection of these two languages. Both require a move from the internal to the external. They require you to step out of your own mind and into the physical reality of your partner. Whether it is an object or an action, you are creating a tangible record of your love. This is why these languages are so powerful during times of crisis. When words fail and when time is short, a gift or an act of service remains. It is the soup brought to the bedside of a sick spouse. It is the small charm given to a partner going through a difficult transition. These are the anchors that hold us steady when the storms of life begin to blow. If you are a person whose language is acts of service, you likely find it very difficult to ask for help. You are used to being the doer. You show love by working, and you expect others to see your work and respond in kind. But remember, your partner may not speak your language. They may see you working and think you are just busy, or that you like having things a certain way. You must give them the dictionary to your heart. Tell them, when you help me with these tasks, I feel so much more loved and connected to you. Communication is the bridge that allows your service to be understood as love rather than just labor. For those whose language is gifts, do not feel guilty for wanting them. It is a beautiful thing to value the symbols of connection. Your heart is like a museum, and every gift is an exhibit that tells the story of your life together. It is not about the stuff, it is about the story. You are a collector of moments and memories. Own that beauty. In this third part of our journey, I want you to look around your environment. What visual symbols of love are present in your home? What acts of devotion have been performed in the last 24 hours? If the landscape is barren, do not despair. It simply means there is room to build. Tomorrow, bring home a small token for no reason at all. Or look for one task that your partner usually does and do it for them, with a spirit of joy rather than resentment. We are moving closer to the core of the human experience. We have covered the words, the time, the thoughts, and the labor. We have moved from the mind to the body. But there is one more physical realm we must explore, the most primal, the most biological, and perhaps the most misunderstood of all. We are moving toward the language of the skin, the language of the nervous system, the language of physical touch. But before we go there, sit with the weight of what we've discussed. Love is not a mystery that is out of your control. It is a craft. It is a series of choices. You choose to think of a gift. You choose to perform a service. You choose to speak. You choose to stay. This is the elevated path, the path of the conscious creator. You are not a victim of your feelings. You are the master of your expressions. As we conclude this segment, reflect on how you can turn your next 24 hours into a physical prayer for your partner. How can you show them in the material world that they are cherished? The world is full of objects and tasks, but when infused with the intention of love, they become sacred. They become the tokens of the soul. The architecture of your heart is growing more complex, more beautiful, and more resilient. You are no longer just feeling love, you are doing love. You are manifesting the invisible into the visible. And in that manifestation, you are becoming a source of light for the person who walks beside you. Stay intentional, stay devoted, and let us prepare for the next layer of this sacred ascent, where we will discuss the power of the human touch to heal, to ground, and to unite. The journey continues, and the light is only getting brighter. We have traversed the realms of the spoken word, the sanctuary of time, and the tangible manifestations of gifts and service. Now we arrive at the most primal, the most ancient, and perhaps the most spiritually significant gate of all, the sacred boundary of physical touch. This is the language that exists before words, before logic, and even before the conscious ego is formed. It is the first language we ever learn. From the moment we are born, we are placed upon the skin of another, and it is through that contact that we learn that we are safe, that we are wanted, and that we are not alone in the vastness of the universe. To speak the language of physical touch is to communicate directly with the nervous system of the person you love. While the other languages must pass through the filters of the mind and the interpretations of the heart, touch bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the soul. It is a biological imperative. We are wired for connection. When we are touched with love and intention, our bodies release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which lowers cortisol, reduces blood pressure, and creates a sense of profound security. For the person whose primary language is touch, this is not a bonus feature of a relationship. It is the very foundation of their emotional survival. However, we must immediately expand our definition of what this language entails. In our hypersexualized culture, physical touch is often reduced to the act of intimacy in the bedroom. But for the touch speaker, that is only one small province in a vast kingdom. This language is composed of 1,000 tiny, non-sexual, micro-connections throughout the day. It is the hand on the small of the back as you walk through a doorway. It is the brushing of shoulders while you are cooking in the kitchen. It is the squeezing of a hand during a difficult movie, or the resting of a head on a shoulder while sitting on the porch. For these individuals, a lack of touch is not just distance. It is an Arctic winter. It is a sensory deprivation that leads to a deep, aching loneliness. They can be surrounded by words of praise, they can be given the most expensive gifts, and they can be helped with every chore. But if there is no physical contact, their love tank will remain bone dry. To them, the skin is the primary organ of communication. If you aren't touching them, you aren't talking to them. Let us look at the elevated perspective of the human body. We are taught to view the body as a machine or a project to be improved. But in the realm of deep connection, the body is a temple. When you touch your partner, you are entering their sacred space. You are acknowledging their physical reality. In a world that is becoming increasingly digital, where we interact through cold glass screens and disembodied voices, the warmth of human skin is a grounding cord. It reminds us that we are here, we are real, and we are together. For the partner of a touch speaker, you must realize that your physical presence is your greatest asset. When your partner is stressed, sad, or overwhelmed, your words might actually be too much for them to process. They don't need a lecture. They need a hug. They don't need an explanation. They need to feel the weight of your arm around them. There is a profound healing power in the long hug, the kind that lasts long enough for both people to synchronize their breathing. In that silence, the nervous system resets, the fight-or-flight response dissolves, and the rest and digest state takes over. You are literally medicine to them. Conversely, we must discuss the shadow of this language. For the person who thrives on touch, physical neglect or a cold withdrawal of affection is the ultimate rejection. If they reach for your hand and you pull away, or if you sit on opposite ends of the couch every night, they feel a soul-level fracture. For them, Physical distance is the same as emotional abandonment. If you are angry and you use no touching as a punishment, you are not just setting a boundary. You are starving their spirit. To speak this language fluently, you must be willing to stay physically connected even when things are difficult. A hand held during an argument can be the very thing that prevents the argument from turning into a war. It signals to the other person, "I am upset with you, but I am still with you." Our connection is bigger than this conflict. Many people find this language difficult because they were raised in touch-starved homes. Perhaps affection was only shown on special occasions, or perhaps the only physical contact was disciplinary. If this is your background, you might feel stiff or awkward when initiating touch. You might feel like you are intruding. But remember the elevated truth. Your partner's body is not a stranger's territory. It is the home of the person you love. Breaking through your own touch awkwardness is a profound act of spiritual growth. It is a way of healing your own history while nurturing your partner's present. Start small. Practice the 6-second kiss. Research shows that a kiss lasting at least 6 seconds creates a neurological connection that a quick peck does not. It is long enough to be intentional, but short enough to fit into a busy morning. Practice the passing touch. Every time you walk past your partner, find a way to make brief physical contact. A hand on the arm, a pat on the back, a stroke of the hair. These are the pulses of love that keep the relationship alive and humming. We must also talk about the sacredness of stillness. Sometimes, the best way to speak this language is simply to be physically near. Body doubling, or simply sitting close enough that your legs touch while you are both reading or working. This creates a shared field of energy. It is the silent assurance of, "I am here." For a touch person, this is the ultimate comfort. It is the feeling of being anchored to the earth. In the context of the elevated within, we see touch as a form of energy transfer. You are not just touching skin. You are touching the aura, the life force, the prana of the other person. When you touch with resentment or distraction, they feel it. When you touch with reverence and adoration, they feel that too. Therefore, the quality of your touch matters as much as the frequency. Before you reach out, take a breath. Center yourself. Let your touch be an extension of your heart's highest intention. Think of the hands. The hands are the tools of the soul. We use them to create, to work, and to defend. But their highest purpose is to comfort. To hold a hand is to say, "I will walk this path with you." To cup a face is to say, "You are precious to me." To massage tired shoulders is to say, "I will help you carry your burdens." These are not just physical gestures, they are prayers in motion. If you are the one who craves touch, do not feel that you are needy. We live in a society that pathologizes the need for connection, calling it codependency. But human beings are biological creatures who require touch for health. Infants who are not touched fail to thrive. Adults who are not touched experience higher rates of depression and illness. Your need for touch is a sign of your humanity, not a flaw in your character. However, you must also learn to ask for it in a way that invites your partner in, rather than making them feel pressured. Instead of saying, "You never touch me," try saying, "I'm feeling a bit disconnected today. Could we just sit and hold hands for a few minutes?" Give them the opportunity to be your hero. As we move toward the final segments of this journey, I want you to reflect on the tactile map of your relationship. Where has the touch gone cold? Where can it be reignited? Remember, the skin is an organ that is constantly renewing itself. No matter how long the winter has lasted, the spring of connection is only a reach away. Touch is the bridge between the internal and the external. It is the moment where two separate beings acknowledge that they are made of the same stardust, subject to the same vulnerabilities, and warmed by the same fire of life. It is the most humble of the languages, yet it is the most powerful. It requires no money, no eloquent vocabulary, and no special skills, only the willingness to be close. In the next part of our exploration, we will move into the advanced territory of the shadow language and the sixth element. We will discuss what happens when these languages are used incorrectly, and we will introduce a modern language that is essential for the elevated soul, the language of shared vision and growth. But for now, I want you to put down the phone or the computer when this part ends. I want you to find your person. And without saying a word, I want you to offer them the gift of your touch. Let the skin say what the tongue cannot. Let the warmth of your hand be the bridge that brings them home. The architecture of your connection is nearly complete. You are becoming fluent in the dialects of the heart. You are learning that love is a multidimensional masterpiece, and you are the artist. Stay present, stay warm, stay elevated. The journey continues into the deeper mysteries of the shadow and the light. I will see you in the next realm, where we will learn how to turn our shared path into a legacy of evolution. We have explored the 5 primary dialects of the heart: words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. You have begun to see the blueprints of how love is built and sustained. But to be truly elevated, we must go deeper. We must look at the architecture that exists beneath the surface, in the spaces where the light doesn't always reach. We must discuss the shadow language and the emergence of the 6th element of connection. This part of our journey is for those who are ready to move beyond basic fluency and into the mastery of the soul. The shadow language is the inverse of your primary love language. It is the specific way in which you are most easily wounded. Understanding this is vital because we often inadvertently weaponize the very thing our partner needs most. If a person's language is words of affirmation, the shadow language is worded weaponry. A single sarcastic comment or a harsh critique doesn't just hurt their feelings, it shatters their sense of reality. If their language is quality time, the shadow is distracted absence. Being physically present but mentally miles away feels like a slow-motion abandonment. To master the architecture of your relationship, you must identify not only how your partner feels loved, but how they feel unloved. We often think that as long as we aren't doing bad things, like cheating or lying, the relationship is safe. But neglect is a silent killer. Neglect is the accumulation of shadow language moments. It is the not doing of the things that fill the tank. If you know your partner needs acts of service, but you consistently leave the heavy lifting to them, you are speaking a language of burdening. You are essentially telling them, "I see your stress, and I am choosing to let you drown in it." This leads us to a profound realization. Most conflicts in relationships are not actually about the topic being argued. They are about a language deficit. When a couple fights about the dishes, they aren't fighting about the dishes. The person whose language is service is actually saying, "I don't feel supported." The person whose language is touch is saying, "I feel like a roommate, not a lover." When you understand this, you stop fighting the symptoms and start healing the cause. You stop arguing about the what and start addressing the why. This is the elevated way of conflict resolution. It is the move from "you are doing this wrong" to "I am hungry for a specific kind of connection that I am not receiving." But as we evolve in this modern age, we are discovering that the traditional 5 languages, while foundational, may not cover the entirety of the elevated experience. There is a 6th element that has emerged among those who are committed to a life of consciousness and purpose. I call this language shared vision and growth. For many of you listening, you may find that even if your partner speaks all 5 traditional languages, something is still missing. You feel a pull toward something higher. You don't just want a happy relationship. You want a significant one. You want a partner who isn't just a companion, but a co-evolutionary. This is the language of the seeker. It is the need to feel that you and your partner are moving toward a shared North Star. The language of shared vision and growth is spoken through the mutual pursuit of expansion. It is the deep, late-night conversations about the meaning of life, the setting of shared spiritual or professional goals, and the active encouragement of each other's personal transformations. For someone who speaks this language, the greatest aphrodisiac is seeing their partner grow, learn, and overcome their own shadows. Conversely, the greatest turnoff is stagnation. If one person is constantly evolving, reading, meditating, seeking, and the other is content to stay exactly where they were 10 years ago, a profound language gap opens up. In this sixth language, intimacy is defined as intimacy. It is the willingness to show your partner your process of becoming. It is saying, "Here is where I am struggling with my ego today," or "Here is the new vision I have for our life together." When you speak this language, you aren't just building a home, you are building a legacy. You are treating the relationship as a third entity, a sacred project that requires constant upgrading and refinement. If you or your partner speaks this language, you must prioritize growth dates. This isn't just dinner and a movie, it's attending a workshop together, reading the same book and discussing it, or sitting down once a month to look at your vision board for the future. It is the active alignment of your souls. For the growth speaker, nothing feels more like love than a partner who says, "I see the potential in you, and I am going to hold the space for you to reach it." We must also address the modern distortion of the love languages. We live in an era of TikTok psychology, where people use these languages as demands or excuses. If you loved me, you would do X because that's my language. This is a corruption of the principle. The love languages are tools for giving, not weapons for demanding. If you use your language as a way to control your partner, you have missed the elevated path entirely. The goal is to become a multilingual lover, someone who is so secure in their own being that they can adapt to whatever language the moment requires. Think of it like this. A master musician doesn't just play one note. They understand the entire scale. They know when the moment requires the high notes of affirmation and when it requires the low, grounding notes of physical touch. They know when to play the rhythm of acts of service. To be elevated is to move toward this kind of versatility. You don't just say, "Well, I'm not a gift person, so I'm not doing that." That is a fixed mindset. A growth mindset says, "I am going to learn the art of the gift because I love the person I am giving it to." This requires a death of the small self. The small self wants to be comfortable. It wants to do what comes naturally. It wants to be loved exactly how it wants without having to change. But the elevated self understands that love is a form of yoga. It is a stretching of the soul. When you speak a language that doesn't come naturally to you, you are literally growing new neural pathways. You are expanding your capacity to hold light. You are becoming a more complex, more capable human being. Let us look at the shadow of the sixth element, the fear of outgrowing. Many people avoid the language of growth because they are afraid that if they or their partner changes too much, the relationship will end. They want the safety of the status quo. But there is no safety in stagnation. Stagnation is just a slow decay. The only way to keep a relationship alive over decades is to ensure that it is constantly being renegotiated through the lens of growth. You are not the same person you were when you met, and neither is your partner. If you are trying to love the version of them from 5 years ago, you are loving a ghost. You must learn to love the person they are becoming. In this advanced architecture, we also recognize the language of forgiveness. While not officially one of the original 5 in the Elevated Within framework, it is the mortar that holds the bricks together. Every language will be misspoken at some point. You will forget the anniversary. You will say the wrong thing. You will be too tired for the hug. The language of forgiveness is the ability to return to the center. It is the sacred repair. A relationship is not defined by the absence of mistakes, but by the speed and sincerity of the repair. If you find yourself in a shadow moment, where you've been neglected or you've done the neglecting, stop and identify the language. I am speaking the language of sarcasm, which is the shadow of affirmation. I need to pivot. This level of self-awareness is what separates the elevated from the reactive. You become the observer of your own patterns. You become the architect who can see a crack in the foundation and fix it before the whole house shakes. As we prepare to move into the final part of this journey, I want you to ask yourself, what is my sixth element? What is the vision that you and your partner are building together? If you don't have one, that is your next task. Love needs a where. It needs a destination. It's not enough to just be in love. You must be going somewhere in love. The architecture of the heart is not a static building. It is a living, breathing cathedral. It has stained glass windows of affirmation, solid pillars of service, and a sacred altar of touch. But it also has the vents of growth that allow the spirit to breathe. In the final segment, we will bring all of this together. We will talk about fluency mastery, how to live these languages every day without it feeling like a task. We will discuss the concept of the legacy of love, and I will leave you with a final activation to ensure that your heart remains elevated for the rest of your days. Stay with the tension of growth. Do not fear the shadow. It only exists because there is a light nearby. Turn toward that light. Recognize your partner's hunger, and recognize your own capacity to feed it. You are more powerful than you know, and your love is more capable than you've been led to believe. The final gate is ahead. Let us walk through it together. Stay intentional, stay conscious, and as always, stay elevated. We have reached the summit of our journey. We have deconstructed the blueprints, explored the hidden chambers of the shadow, and integrated the modern necessity of shared growth. Now we arrive at the final gate, the mastery of fluency and the creation of a lasting legacy. This is where the knowledge we have gathered ceases to be a theory and becomes the very air you breathe. It is the transition from doing love to being love. Mastery is not about perfection, it is about recollection. In the heat of daily life, among the bills, the deadlines, and the inevitable frictions of human existence, it is easy to forget everything we have discussed. The elevated soul, however, practices the art of remembering. Mastery is the ability to recognize in real time when the love tank of the union is dipping into the red and having the spiritual discipline to refill it before the engine stalls. To achieve this mastery, you must move beyond the transactional mindset. Many people approach the love languages as a ledger of debits and credits. I did the dishes, so now you owe me a compliment. This is not love, it is commerce. It is the ego dressed in the robes of devotion. True fluency is unconditional transmission. You speak your partner's language not because they have earned it, but because you have committed to being a source of light in their life. You give because that is who you are, not because of what you hope to receive. Ironically, it is this very selflessness that creates the infinity loop of connection. When you pour into your partner's tank without the expectation of an immediate return, you create a vacuum of grace that naturally draws them toward you. You become a safe harbor. And when a human being feels truly safe, truly seen, and truly fed, their natural instinct is to give back. Love is a frequency. When you broadcast at the highest level, the universe eventually echoes that frequency back to you. But let us talk about the maintenance of the sacred. A cathedral is not kept beautiful by one single cleaning. It requires daily care. The same is true for your relationship. You must establish rituals of connection. These are the non-negotiable points in your day or week where the love languages are intentionally practiced. Perhaps it is a gratitude ritual every morning where you offer one word of affirmation before your feet even hit the floor. Perhaps it is the touchstone, a specific way you greet each other when coming home that involves at least 30 seconds of physical contact. These rituals are the rhythm of your heart's architecture. They ensure that even on the days when you don't feel romantic, the structure of love remains standing. We must also address the evolving language. One of the greatest mistakes couples make is assuming that because they knew their partner's language 10 years ago, they know it today. Human beings are dynamic systems. As we age, as we go through trauma, as we achieve success, and as we face loss, our primary languages can shift. A woman who valued quality time in her 20s might find that as a busy executive or mother in her 30s, she desperately needs acts of service. A man who valued physical touch might find that after a period of professional failure, he needs words of affirmation to rebuild his spirit. To be elevated is to remain a perpetual student of your partner. You must periodically re-interview the soul across from you. Ask them, "How do you feel most loved by me lately? What is one thing I've done recently that made you feel truly seen? What is a language I've been neglecting?" This prevents the relationship from becoming a museum of who you used to be and keeps it a living garden of who you are now. Now, let us look at the concept of the legacy of love. Why are we doing this? Why are we spending 12,000 words exploring the nuances of the heart? It is because the way you love is the most important piece of work you will ever produce. Your relationship is the primary template for everyone who observes you, your children, your friends, your community. When you master the love languages, you are not just improving your marriage, you are healing the collective. You are showing a world that is addicted to conflict and disposability that it is possible to build something that lasts. You are proving that two people can remain elevated together, even in a descending world. Think of the impact on a child who grows up in a home where the love languages are spoken fluently. They see a father who performs acts of service with joy. They see a mother who offers words of affirmation with sincerity. They learn through osmosis that love is a skill, a choice, and a sacred responsibility. You are breaking generational curses of silence, coldness, and misunderstanding. You are giving the next generation the dictionary of the soul that perhaps you were never given. That is a legacy that outlasts any bank account or professional title. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration, I want to offer you the final activation. For the next 7 days, I want you to practice the language of the day. On Monday, focus entirely on words of affirmation. On Tuesday, quality time, and so on. Even if it isn't your partner's primary language, you are cross-training your heart. You are becoming a master architect who knows how to use every tool in the kit. And for those of you who are currently alone or who feel that your partner is unwilling to join you on this elevated path, do not lose heart. The love languages are not just for romantic partners. They are for your children, your parents, your friends, and most importantly, for yourself. Do you know how to speak your own love language? If you need words of affirmation, do you provide them for yourself through your internal dialogue? If you need quality time, do you take yourself into the stillness? You cannot pour from an empty cup. To be a master of love for others, you must first be a master of love for the soul that inhabits your own skin. We are living in a time of great transition. The old ways of relating, based on ownership, roles, and duty, are falling away. They are being replaced by a new paradigm of conscious union. This new way requires more of us. It requires vulnerability, effort, and a willingness to be elevated, but the rewards are beyond measure. To be truly known and truly loved in your own language is the closest we can get to the divine on this physical plane. I want to thank you for walking this path with me, for being willing to look into the mirror and do the work of the heart. You are the reason the elevated within exists. You are the seekers, the builders, and the keepers of the light. As you move back into the world, carry these languages with you. Let your life be a poem written in the dialects of devotion. Before we part, I ask you once more to join our circle. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this message with someone whose heart might be feeling a little empty today. Let's spread the fluency of love until it becomes the native tongue of the world. The architecture of your heart is now complete. It is strong, it is beautiful, and it is open. Go forth and live in it. Protect the love tank, honor the sixth element, and never forget that you are a miracle in progress. The light within me honors the light within you. Stay intentional, stay compassionate, and as always, stay elevated. Goodbye for now, but the journey of the soul never truly ends. I will see you in the next expansion.